She too got off with a life jail sentence, like most people of the few that are convicted or plead guilty. Chapter 4. Kleptocracy rising. The greatest enemy of democratic government in the world today is kleptocratic government. Kleptocracy is a worldwide phenomenon and a worldwide threat to democracy. Today we're witnessing a growing tendency toward abstinence from accountability, the refusal to recognize that one is accountable to any higher authority. This is the seed of kleptocracy, planted by the irresponsible, the unaccountable, fertilized by human greed, and watered by the flow of untruth that grows in the roots of corruption as the roots of corruption reach deeply into the fertile soil of human culture, producing the fungus of corruption that rapidly covers all it touches with the invisible slime of unbridled evil. It can stealthily displace any and all political ideology or form of government. Kleptocracy comes to power neither by force nor by the ballot. It simply grows like a fungus, corrupting more and more persons until it takes control. Almost everyone then becomes corrupt. As corruption becomes a way of life, payoffs become salary supplements, collusion spreads because everybody's doing it, and gradually the entire country, or at least its business and governmental leadership and its public service, becomes totally corrupt. The great poet Alexander Pope described this process very aptly when he said of vice and corruption, seen too often, familiar with her face. We first endure, then pity, then embrace. And so many individuals, honest in the beginning of their career, finally embrace corruption. Kleptocracy is government by thieves. There's nothing new about it. Kleptocracy may be, in fact, the world's oldest form of government. It simply consists of the institutionalization of one person or one elite group's greed for resources and power in the form of the apparatus of the state. Most monarchies deteriorated over time into kleptocracies. Most great empires were driven by kleptocracy's inspiration. The plunders taken back to conquering armies in times of war, the hated tributes extorted by tax collectors in times of peace, all in the name of government, permeate the pages of history of our so-called civilization. Karl Marx saw the capitalists as the most horrible of kleptocrats, exploiting natural and human resources driven by greed. But his own disciples did exactly the same thing, even as they praised his name. We've seen the domino effect of the people disgusted with kleptocracy among the former Soviet states. But the disillusionment evidenced by many former communists has not been so much with the ideology, but with the corruption which discredited the utopian promises and their promisors. It became apparent to the world in the last decade of the 20th century that kleptocracy had actually displaced communism in a number of countries. Beware! Beware! It can replace and displace democracy just as stealthily. The big challenge to democratic governments today is how to protect itself from kleptofungus, perhaps now dormant but still permeating the society which has become accustomed to it. Often throughout history, kleptocracy has been overthrown by disgusted citizens only to be replaced by another, under another brand name, and you know that story very well. Then by another, and then by another over years. Kleptofungus is invisible. It grows anywhere there are human beings. In its early stages, it's unnoticed. At mid-growth, it begins to get hold of every possible activity. At mid-growth, it begins to, in later stages, it reproduces with geometric progression so that it quickly takes complete control before it can be stopped. The third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, said, "The time to guard against corruption and tyranny is before they shall have gotten hold of us." We're now seeing the late stage of the growth of kleptofungus throughout many countries in the world today. The geometrically progressive stage, it's already gotten hold of us, especially in the world's major cities and in quite a few countries. Once in control, kleptocratic power tends to become more and more centralized in one person or group, which holds the franchise on all forms of corruption. Lower-level concessionaires are become economic slaves of the rulers, passing them ever larger and larger amounts of graft, which must be financed by squeezing tightly on those below. The klepto-constrictors continually apply more and more pressure until the lowest levels rebel in desperation or are saved by an outside force. We have much to learn from the real-life illustrations of the astounding vitality of the kleptocratic menace, which are reported daily in the media. History is filled with case studies of kleptofungal growth and domination. We need a scientist, really, we know what we need. We need a scientist that can invent an effective kleptofungicide. Science, sadly, never seems to solve human problems. The solution to kleptofungal growth lies within us. We can prevent kleptocracy. We can control corruption in government. But we can only do this, not by changing laws, not by changing presidents, not by changing legislatures, not by changing anything except people. We must change ourselves by seeing that people accept their duty to be accountable, that they restore honor as a goal in human behavior, integrity as a prerequisite to respect and admiration, and doing our best to decontaminate the culture around us. Integrity and honorability constitute the real kleptofungicide. By recognizing the importance of integrity and honorability, we cannot eradicate corruption from our planet. But we can control it, prevent it, discover most of it, and take more effective and immediate measures to punish those responsible for it. But if we're to win over corruption, we must determine to whom we ourselves are accountable. If we are to defeat corruption, we must first recognize that we are accountable to our Creator, to our family, to our nation, to other persons, and our own selves, and then, and only then, will we have the right and duty to insist upon accountability by others. To accountability, we must add integrity. To integrity, we must add honesty. To honesty, we must add ethical conduct. And to ethical conduct, we must add credibility through truthfulness and transparency. Then we will merit honor. And we must not let honor fade away. Needless to say, my remarks to you reflect my personal observations and opinions, and those of no other person or organization. I've purposely not spoken except in the preface about your wonderful country, because although in the 4 months I've been here long enough to see its beauty, its greatness, I doubt if I'll be able to stay here the several decades or more necessary to understand its politics and its challenges of governments. But